We are involved in the citizen heritage activity of attempting to find unknown archaeology using LiDAR and aerial photography. This pastime has become increasingly possible through the availability of high-quality LiDAR maps and aerial photographic resources, alongside digitised historic maps and publicly available archaeological registers. I've had a few of the members ask me how to investigate the sites that they find, how to check whether they are known sites or not, then how to approach the county, state or regional archaeology department to have the sites assessed and registered. So I thought I would make this how-to video to help the beginners. What follows is an account of how I investigate my finds, which has developed over the last few years, but you'll probably find your own techniques as you go along. This video is from an English perspective, so if you are from another country, you may find that some of the resources described, such as the searchable archaeological registers, may not be available to you yet. However, as far as I know, every country has a state archaeologist or other institution that fulfills that role who may be contacted. Likewise, not every country has highly detailed LiDAR images available to the general public. However, they all have detailed aerial photographic resources, so at least we have that. I think that in general though, the process I'm going to describe holds for everywhere. When you start out looking for new archaeological sites, you may be looking at LiDAR maps or aerial photographic resources, both of which I've attempted to gather on the resources website at www.lidarandaerialarchaeology.com. If you're attempting to search using the LiDAR resources, just be aware that some of the links from the website go directly to a LiDAR hillshade view, which are the grey shaded type. Others go to a map where you will have to search through the layers to get this view, and still others just provide raw data. If you are wishing to use the data, you will have to learn how to use the software that processes it. I have added the QGIS open source software option to the website under the training page, with the manual and some training videos. It's hard learning, but the results that can be achieved using the data are quite stunning. There are other types of open source software that do the same job, but I think the general consensus is that QGIS is an excellent place to start. When starting out, I would say it's a good idea to go and have a look at as many known archaeological sites as you can before trying to find unknown ones. This way, you can get used to the scale of the sites and how they appear in different crop conditions, so you know how far to zoom in on the maps and what you are looking for. For example, if you are looking for Roman buildings, check out the Roman cities of Roxeter, Silchester or St Albans. If you are looking for henges, check out Arborough, the Thornborough complex in Yorkshire, Avebury, and perhaps some of the lesser known and less obvious sites such as Rudston Henge or the henges near Cheddar Gorge. Also, there are some excellent aerial photographic interpretation books on the subject that will help in this process. But remember, we are looking for the archaeology that everyone else has missed, so it's not going to be obvious or easy. As a rule of thumb, if I can see it clearly on LiDAR or aerial maps, it's probably known. However, this is not always the case. I have discovered sites such as hill forts that at first I had discounted because they were obvious on LiDAR. But you'll get used to this and learn how to assess what you see to save yourself time. Okay, so let's say I've been looking at the LiDAR and aerial maps and I have found a feature. The first thing I do is a screen grab, and I save the picture as the name of the nearest town so I don't lose the find. It's all too easy to click on the screen somewhere else, and before I know it, I've lost the location of the site I've just found, and it can take an age to find it again, if I ever do. Now I need to try and figure out whether it's known or not. The first port of call for national archaeological registers in England is the Heritage Gateway website. This is run by Historic England, who are responsible for maintaining monument sites, and they also maintain this national register. It is an archive that is searchable by using a map, so it's relatively easy to find my area and assess whether the feature I am seeing has been logged. The Heritage Gateway website is starting to look a bit dated, and don't even bother trying to use your phone. Generally speaking though, it's a great resource to have. The next step is checking English county authorities, as they also maintain their own websites, found by searching online, for example on my own county register, the Derbyshire Historic Environment Record, or derbyshire.her. When we get to this level, all of the English counties seem to behave in a different manner. The websites are not uniform, and the level of search available to the public differs. Some don't have a searchable register at all, but most do. Also, I have recently found out that the English national parks run a separate register altogether, so you can see that it becomes problematic at this level to assess known from unknown. So let's say I've searched the registers and my site is not on them. I've learnt not to start getting too excited at this stage, as there can be a long delay between sites being found and then being put on the record. This has several causes, one being that the registers are only updated every so often, sometimes annually. Another cause for this delay is that I suspect some sites are being held back so they can be archaeologically assessed before being recorded. I'm okay with this as it protects the sites, but it can be frustrating when I think I've found something new. The next stage is gathering your evidence and submitting it by email to the archaeologists. When I'm sending them a new site to be assessed, I send it with all the information I can gather. I screen grab the aerial photo or LiDAR image, but usually I send them both. Then I go and see if I can find any of the year's aerial photography where this site is visible. To do this, I use Google Earth software and use the Historic View function by clicking View and then Historic View. There is then a slider that I can search through the year's images. There are other softwares available on the resources website that do a similar job, and for you it will be a matter of playing around with the different resources and seeing which best suits your region. Then I check the old maps of the area and see if there is anything that I can see that would explain the feature. We can usually get pretty decent maps going back a couple of 100 years or so, and I've put all the known free resources on the old maps page of the resources website. Once I have all of the pictures, I use a measuring tool to get a good idea of the scale of the feature. This is important as it helps the archaeologists in interpretation. Also, I obtain a precise grid ref of the feature. A simple right click on Google Maps or Bing Maps gives me the grid refs and the measurement tool. And remember, also add in your email which resources you are using. So the simple list to send is aerial photography, LiDAR images, old historic maps, grid reference, measurement, and which resources you are using. The people to send the finds to are the county level archaeologists. There should be an email address for them either on the County Historic Environment Record websites or alternatively they are also kept on the Heritage Gateway website. The hardest part of the process is the waiting once I've sent off my email. Here again it will differ depending on the county I'm looking in. Some counties get back straight away and some never get back. As a guide, I usually wait 2 weeks from sending the first email before doing anything else. You've got to remember, these sort of roles within local government have other responsibilities such as being involved with planning and development, which I'm sure takes precedence. If I find that my email has had no reply after 2 weeks, I then follow it up with an email to the Heritage Gateway directly. The Heritage Gateway then chase down the inquiry, and I've had some good results using this method. The county register should then reply with information on whether it's a known site and if not, what they think it might be. One thing that I've been doing for a while is posting on our Facebook or LinkedIn group. We have many members who are trained archaeologists and also aerial photographic and LiDAR professionals. They have helped me whittle down which sites I eventually sent off to be assessed by the county archaeologists. I would like to address the topic of heritage ethics, which basically means the rights and wrongs of what we do when we're trying to find unknown archaeology. I've put this section in because archaeological sites can be looted and certainly have been in the past. I am by no means an expert in this area, but I know that it can be a particularly divisive issue for some people, and I have personally struggled to find a straightforward viewpoint that might encapsulate all of the nuance that's present when we point an ethical lens at our pastime. Why do I find it so hard, I hear you say, when it's simply a case of saying looters shouldn't loot? Well, yes. So how do we define a looter? This is the initial complication when each country has taken a different stance on heritage, so laws are not consistent in this area across regions. For example, amateur archaeology is illegal in some countries and legal in others. Metal detecting is legal in England, but illegal in many southern European countries. One person's looting is another's legitimate pursuit. Then there are the historical factors, such as native peoples' claims to their own cultural heritage sites. So we need to be sensitive to this as well, because to these people, the sites we find still have a direct meaning in their social and cultural lives. For example, the Native American peoples of North America or the Aboriginal people in Australia. So there are the laws and the cross-cultural considerations to account for. These complicate matters. Now, how do we find a simple framework to try and stay within? Well, I would say the principal reason we have undertaken to find these sites is to preserve the sites we find for future generations so that they might be investigated and understood. This will give them the meaning they deserve and help them become a part of our collective history. From an archaeological standpoint, when cross-cultural considerations apply, this might mean leaving the site alone altogether. To do this, we need to be operating within the law. When accessing monuments or sites, flying drones, metal detecting, or conducting amateur archaeology. I'm sure there are easily accessible online guidelines and rules for whatever region you are in. And when we find an unknown site, we must submit it to the national archaeological registers so that they can be better protected by whatever laws are present in that country. Remember, we live in an imperfect world and we won't get everything right. But if we can agree on our core ethical principles of preserving archaeological sites, operating within the laws and submitting new sites to the registers, then most of the rest of what we do will fall into place. We are involved in a burgeoning citizen heritage pastime, and it feels like we are at the beginning of a very interesting change in how archaeological sites are found. So good luck with your searches, and if you need any help or can contribute links to the resources website, please just let me know. I've put a little video together at the end here so you can see what's possible when it all goes to plan, and you are very, very lucky. The site in question forms the banner picture to our group. It was my first unknown archaeological find and is now known as Sheldon Henge.